I am here in the halls of the MVP Summit. It's a bit loud, we apologize, but people are very engaged and very passionate about what it is that they're doing. And I'm here with Tibi Covaci,
Yes.
to be specific. And Tibi is, well, you're Regional Director and you're an MVP as well.
Yeah.
And first of all, do you want to explain what Regional Director is? Because no one knows.
So I used to call it an MVP plus, you know.
Exactly.
Now, the difference, I think, between the MVP program and the RD program is that the MVP does a lot of community building, while the RDs are talking most with the business. So actually, we, you know, when we get renewed or even accepted into the program, they look at how much, you know, how big are the customers we get engaged with, and how many, you know, the Microsoft execs are going to be engaged with, and it's a nomination that comes from the Microsoft senior management or from another RD in the program. So it is a bit, we are a bit exclusive. We're special.
You are special, all right? Jeez. But I find, so it's just to clarify, Microsoft Regional Director, you don't work for Microsoft.
No, I'm not working for Microsoft.
You don't have a region.
No, it's a misnomer.
And you don't direct anything.
No, none
Excellent.
of it. So exactly. That was the whole. That's the whole story. Yeah. Especially when you move a lot, you know, like I really don't have one.
We won't get into that. So let's talk about cloud migration, because I know something like SQL Server 2008 is running out of support. Server 2008 is running out of support, R2 and not R2. And we're looking, like Microsoft is pushing the whole cloud migration thing. So I thought you would be a perfect candidate to talk about tools and strategies.
Yeah, thank you. I've been doing that actually for quite some time. I got involved with some very big customers that they wanted to do exactly this. You know, they have their own infrastructure and they want to move either to a new version of their infrastructure, like they have a hardware refresh, or they need to do something along those lines. And most of them decide like cloud could be actually a good strategy to move to. Mainly because you don't have to block your money in the infrastructure, and you have to you get a lot of advantages, and you have a lot of products that are already made for you. So I think a successful cloud migration will be the one where you can really combine the software as a service with platform as a service and infrastructure as a service.
Yeah, right.
So we found ourselves actually for the past 3 years talking with a lot of companies that do want to do the cloud migration. But it's always especially when you get to a bigger enterprise, it's always the same discussion. What exactly do you want to? What exactly do you own? What exactly do you want to move? Because it's always, it's called the shadow IT for a reason, and because they start saying, okay, we have a machine there, or maybe we can ask for a virtual machine, and then the dead developer syndrome, like he wrote it, he disappeared a long time ago, nobody knows anything, and the documentation is king, and of course they have it, so it's
Of course they do.
So we found ourselves actually having to use a lot of tools, and there are some Microsoft tools that you can use, like Maps, for instance, which does some kind of mapping of your infrastructure, but it's not, it doesn't give you the whole picture. So we found ourselves actually in a position where we had to write our own. And I mean, we are developers at heart. Of course, if it's not developed here, it's not worth the using, So,
And it's always better when you write it new, right?
exactly, file new. That's the king again, the other king. So we started to write an application, and what we realized is that we want to see the communication pattern as well. So not only what machines you have, what operating systems, maybe what patch level you have on them, but as well the communication, because then you can find actually very, I would say hidden gems. Like you go and then all of a sudden you realize that this machine over here talks with this server over there. I'm like, why? Oh, maybe some of the developers just created, or he might send some logs, or he might work with a database there, and he forgot to say to the people how he got there, and then there are a lot of things. So while starting to use that, together with other tools, like you have Azure Migration, that would help you and do some of the things, and you have the Azure Site Recovery, that again is another tool that, the whole idea at the beginning was to help you with the disaster recovery scenarios. But a lot of people realized, but actually, that's what happened. When I want to move from A to B, then I can do that, and I can replicate my whole infrastructure. And I said, oh, now you're gone. And then it should, if everything works correctly, it should come up on the other side. And then you are doing a successful migration. And then you have stuff like Azure Database Migration, and again, it will help you move to the database. So Microsoft is doing a lot of work in this space, I think, and it helps the big companies. And what we observe now is that more and more companies are actually ready to move to the cloud. I think it was the first wave. People were looking like 4 years ago. Whenever you talk with them, they was like, what about security? I'm like, yeah, what about it? Because they like to throw these open-ended questions.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, tell me what exactly do you need, and let's see if Azure can offer it or not. Tell me what are the regulations in your industry. What exactly do you need? And then we can actually look at that. But otherwise, let's not waste each other's time asking, those questions. But now it seems like the more companies are moving to the cloud, the more companies are actually ready to, to do the same. So we get pulled, like every other week at least, I get a customer meeting, like big customers, enterprise customers that they say they're seriously looking at how they can move to the cloud, which starts to be a very interesting scene, like for any company at the end of the day. So
it's interesting because I kind of always related to when we first started doing credit card payments online.
Yeah.
Like people were like, I'm not putting my credit card into that thing, right? And now we don't even think about it. And it's becoming that way with the cloud migration. Like, 5 years ago, people go, I don't know about this cloud thing. And now it's almost like, well, we got to have cloud. And I guess that's why the tools are coming from Microsoft as well as others, right?
Exactly, and I mean, there is actually quite an interesting space because there are a lot of companies that see the shortcomings, and I think Microsoft does a pretty good job. But they need to make sure that they can actually satisfy everyone, so they cannot actually come with tool for everything and to be complete. Sure. So we found ourselves in this in this position because we had that and we really needed to understand the whole picture. And the nice part, at least, the nice part with our product at the end was that when you're done with it, you get you get a business case. You get something that you can go to the customer and say, you know what, look, those machines are at risk. You have technical depth here. You have that here because you didn't have the time. I do agree with that. You had this urgent project that you could you had to cut corners. But now it's actually coming back. So you need to fix this. You need to do something about it. So yeah, it is quite interesting.
It is definitely almost never switch, right? Like there's a lot to it, which is why all the tools are there. Just talk a little bit about Azure Migration, the tool itself, because I think that's quite interesting.
So it's still, I think it's still I'll say a child product.
Yes.
Because the way it is done at the moment, it can only move VMware stuff. So what you get actually at the end, you get a agentless installation. So inside your VMware cloud, you get a OVA that you can just start and then starts collecting information. And when you say, okay, I want to move, then it will generate an ASR prod, like with the machines and all the things and then informations about it that you can move. But I think, like looking at how the market evolved and how many products Microsoft created lately, I think in about a year or two we are going to see complete products that you can actually go more or less and see take a picture of a whole of a whole infrastructure and then start moving it. I still think it would be a wrong approach anyway, mainly because then you don't use the cloud as it should be. I mean, you're still using it as a data center, which is not. I mean, it's not supposed to be like that, but. That's why when you really need to start to look into the into the real like your real applications, and you really need to understand that. How do I get a good database backup system, or like do I really need to get access to the master DB, or do I actually can I actually just have the database and make sure that I get the stuff and someone takes care of all the backups and all the stuff, and if I need replications, I get replication and so on. So, but without me actually having to do that, and
I think those are the really interesting questions. Hey, okay, we know you have 18 VMs here, but can you just do it with 2 and then compute functions or whatever? And as you said, do you need access to everything? Like those questions are what you really need to ask when you do the migration. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. But I think talking about functions, I think there's another problem there because a lot of classic organizations or big enterprises, they have this very very stiff enterprise architecture, like the ivory tower that they need to do the stuff. So it is very, I don't know, it is interesting anyway. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's very cool. Is there anything else you want to add with the tools? Because I know there's a ton of tools out there, right?
So. I don't know, just keep a lookout of it. If you saw some tools today, do not assume that they will be the same tools, tomorrow. They will definitely be better versions, or they will be completed. So just because some feature is not there today, it doesn't mean it's not, it won't be there, in a month or two.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thanks so much, Tibi. I really appreciate your time, man. Cheers.